episode I can't fucking remember anymore. I think it's 5? I
We'll
think
go with
it's...
that.
Yeah, I think... Because I think I recorded episode 4 this morning. We're gonna go with episode 4, and then say that... Welcome to episode 5. This is episode 5 now. Hopefully. To Life of an Adjunct Professor. I am the Adjunct Professor. And, as you can tell by the title in which I will be naming, to capitalize on somebody else's engagement, we are joined by Human Taco, aka Midas, aka I don't know. How do you want to introduce yourself?
Raul. I also go by Raul the Human Taco on Twitch. And everywhere else that's not Twitch, I go by ModernDayMidas. That's like all my other socials. I don't know why I decided Twitch was going to be the one place that I did something different, but these things happen.
You know, that's just sort of how the life of the internet is.
Yeah.
Uh, but my Modern Day Midas as well on Spotify and YouTube. So if anyone is enjoying the podcast from my Twitch streams, you will know about it. All of the music that I play before, during, and after streams are this man's music. So
And for copyright reasons, I give him full permission.
yeah, so suck on it, government or whoever.
Yeah. Spotify.
Yeah, suck on. I have yet to have any problem with playing your music on stream, and it's been 2 years now, I think.
They're probably like, this guy's music is just not important.
No
So
one
we're not
would.
even going to flag it.
Nobody would flag this in the first place. I have never been flagged for your music, but I have been flagged for the shitty flute cover of My Heart Will Go On several
Wow.
times.
Wow.
YouTube has gotten me on that, I think, twice now. Uh,
Damn.
yeah. Well, it's a whole long story. It's one of the reasons I don't really do VODs much anymore, but I'll get back to it. Um,
Hmm.
but welcome everyone to the podcast. So we've been handling some pretty fun topics recently, such as how to admit when you're wrong and the panics of AI in the classroom and in the wider world. So, of course, we're going to take a lighter approach to things by talking about the struggles of a musician in 2025. A much lighter topic. So, yeah,
Yeah.
we were joined by Raul, aka Taco, aka Modern Day Midas, who is a musician and does actually do live shows.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I do.
some of which he does sometimes stream on his Twitch. So please do go check him out. All of his socials and everything would be linked in the podcast description, the episode description. So please go check him out if you haven't. But yeah, I wanted to just sort of talk with a friend on the ideas of music, because music is one of those things that is kind of everywhere and always has been.
Yeah.
Uh, and yet for some reason it's always seen as like a secondary who cares.
Well, it's a luxury that I think a lot of us have kind of just accepted as a part of our life. Like we can be background, like music can be background. Um, it doesn't have to necessarily be like the focus of someone's life.
Mm.
Some people choose for it to be.
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, but I think it's definitely something that we all just enjoy as a luxury.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't like when I'm working with my students. If we're ever doing stuff in class, I always look for music specifically that's not distracting, so it can sit in the background and no one will listen
Yeah.
to it, but it exists. And there, I guess there is something is to the point of like when it becomes too easy to access something. What is the meaning behind it anymore?
Yeah. And depending on your feelings about music, you either seek it out or you just kind of let it be in the background. I know there are songs that like come out for me that I hear it like play on the radio, or I purposely seek it out because I'm like, this song just kind of captured a feeling that I want to feel right now.
Mm.
So I kind of look for those sometimes.
Yeah, and not even flattery, but there have been times where I'll be driving to work or I'll be sitting in the car doing something, and I will look out for your music, not because it's a flattery thing, but because there are certain songs that are just like, right now I kind of need this in my life.
Awesome. That really truly means a lot to me.
Of course, and just because I am your number one fan on Spotify, uh, but it's for a reason. I mean, there's something about like a lot of your songs are just enjoyable to listen to, but there are several that like there are certain moments of my life where I'm feeling a kind of mood, and it's like this. I know exactly what I need to play right now, and it's this. um,
That I can tell you that you have no idea really what that means um to me because okay, if you think about just songs in general, like I'm not speaking specifically about mine, but like songs make up kind of the soundtrack to our lives. It's the reason why like emo music is kind of making a really big resurgence because that was a lot of, at least for my age group, like millennials, older millennials, that was like our high school stuff. That was when times were simpler. That's when the world wasn't kicking our ass constantly.
yeah,
And those so like it's very much soundtracks to our lives, and everyone has a very unique one.
yeah, and I mean you're right. To a lot of, I mean, how often have we as people like looked for a song because we were feeling sad and we wanted a sad song because not to feel sadder, but to know that someone else out there has felt the way we felt, and it's kind of it's a release. It's like I've heard the song, it's validated my emotion, and now I can kind of move on.
Yeah, same reason I look up those like sad puppy videos with the Sarah McLachlan song
I
"In the Arms of an Angel."
I use those videos in my class to talk about ethos, logos, and pathos. I use it.
Really?
I do because the sad music is directly hitting your emotion.
Hmm.
The use of a celebrity is definitely working off of credibility, and
Okay.
they use quote unquote statistics in the videos that are supposed to act on some sort of like evidence. So those videos alone hit all three of the rhetorical appeals.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a great case study. If anyone hasn't, look up Sarah McLachlan's "Sad Puppies." I think it's for the ASPCA. Go watch those. You'll cry, or if you're me, you'll analyze them to hell.
I think you're the only person I've ever heard that analyzes that, which is it's a brilliant form of like analyzing, but I just watch it to cry.
I I stole the idea from my ENC 1102 professor back in undergrad, like fucking 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
Nice.
So, but when I
We
was
can
going,
we can edit out the credit part. It's all your idea.
in fact, I'm gonna highlight that and loop it for 15 minutes. Um, but no, when I was going through, it's not a secret. I was Baker acted my freshman year of college. It's not a secret. It's part of my whole personality because I'm a loser. But when I got out of the hospital and I was very like in the emotional limbo of how do I feel, what is life? I
Hmm.
watched those like military coming home videos to try to like stir up my emotion and learn how to cry again.
Dude, I watch the same videos.
It works, man. It really works.
I watch them for a slightly different purpose in the if I feel like like when I'm writing or something like that, if I want to be in a certain emotional space, I'll kind of seek out those types of videos to kind of put me in that emotional space to see if I can create something within that.
Yeah,
Um, doesn't always work, but
and if it's a great soundbite of someone crying, it'll go great for the interlude.
exactly.
And that
That's
actually,
gonna be on my next album. I'm just gonna be like 3 minutes of sobbing.
have you ever? Okay, so I am going to launch into to some questions in a second here. But have you ever heard of Neil Cici Rega?
No, I'm not familiar.
So if you ever watch Harry Potter Puppet Pals on YouTube?
Yes.
That
Yes.
guy. um,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's that guy. Well, he makes music, and a lot of it is like memey, haha, funny. Some of it's serious. But he had an album called Mouth Silence, and
Interesting.
it was like screwed up remixes of songs that were kind of weird and off-putting. Um, but in every single song in that album, there was a pause of just total silence in every single song. And if you took just the silence out, lined them up end to end in order, and then boosted the audio, It was the entirety of All Star by Smash Mouth.
Nice.
So if you can somehow figure out a way to do that, but with just military crying,
In the
seeing their
background,
in their
just like
background. So the
I'll work on it.
so the idea of making music, like I want to launch in. So I mean, what got you into music in the first place? Like, was it you? Was it someone in your life? Like, how'd that happen?
So, I started asking for a guitar around 15 years old. I had a friend of mine named Jesse who played guitar. He was excellent guitarist, still probably is incredible guitarist. Um, and I was like, that's so cool. I would love to learn how to play guitar, impress some girls. So I started asking for a guitar at 15. My parents said no. I asked at 16. They said no. I kept asking, kept asking, kept asking. And my parents were like, no, it's just going to sit in a corner and gather dust. We're not going to waste some money on it. You're never going to play it. Never going to learn how to play it. Just, it's going to sit there. And I kept begging, and they eventually gave in, and they got me this $100 little guitar and amp, electric guitar and amp package from Best Buy. For some reason, Best Buy was selling guitars. And I had been asking them because I wanted to learn metal music, and they were like, "No, that music's too angry." And then eventually Creed came on the radio, and I started listening to Creed, and I listened to like the guitarist from Creed, Mark Tremonti's like incredible guitarist, and my parents really liked Creed, so I kind of lied to them and told them I want to learn how to play stuff like this, and they finally gave in, and so I learned, taught myself, and then my friend Jesse kind of gave me a couple of like beginner lessons. I learned by playing a bunch of Metallica covers. I would play the rhythm while he would play the lead. I remember going over to his front yard, and we had another friend named Cristo who was a drummer that still probably one of the most impressive drummers I've ever known to this day. He had a half broken, barely half a kit, and would make it sound fuller than most people do with a full kit. um, so that's kind of how I learned, and I would just like go to his house after school. We'd go fishing in the canals in South Texas, and then we'd go over to his house and jam a little bit. And I just kept playing and playing and playing. Took it with me to college. I switched from electric to acoustic in college because it was more economical versus carrying an amp.
Hmm.
And played a bunch in college. And a friend of mine eventually dragged me to an open mic, and that's kind of where that begins.
I I like that though. I mean, I always appreciate when something starts out as like a solo endeavor that just becomes a community event. It's not. It's a family joined under a single goal. It's nice to have that group sort of surrounding you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I will say though, I was the student who begged. I was the kid who begged for a guitar. Then I got a guitar. I learned 3 songs, and now it sits in a corner. In my defense, though, it's because the strings have been loose for the past 2 years, and only my dad knows how to replace them, and he keeps forgetting.
keeps her for, oh, so you probably had those strings on there for years.
Uh, I I have 2 guitars. The first one was one I got when I was like uh 14, 15. That a friend of mine broke.
Oh,
He wound up one of the strings so tight it snapped and coiled itself inside. I forget what it's the piece at the very bottom of the guitar the strings wind through before going up the neck.
okay, yeah, like the
It's
saddle area.
Yeah, it snapped so hard it flew backwards into that and wound itself up around like the screws. So it was just destroyed.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was great. Hate that kid. Haven't talked to him since. And the second guitar I got, I was learning, but the strings hadn't been replaced, I think, once since I got it, and I was maybe 19, 20.
I I've had a lot of friends like ask me to teach them guitar, and I liken learning guitar to. Did you ever play sports or anything growing up?
Oh yeah, I grew up in South Florida. It was a rite of passage to play soccer and baseball.
Soccer, baseball, yeah. I'm from Texas, so it was football nation. But it's very much like training in a sport in that like eventually like in your endurance type of thing or running a marathon, you're gonna hit a wall of your skill level. Like you're just gonna hit a wall and it's gonna be like, I can't get past this, I can't get past this, I can't get past this. And then eventually you push past it.
Hmm.
That's kind of what learning guitar is. You're gonna hit this curve like right at the beginning, and it's just getting over that little curb.
I The first thing I learned was the intro to Smoke on the Water, because it's just
Nice.
this stereotypical, like, now we're gonna learn how to use a finger on two strings,
Ooh, yeah,
real
dangerous.
big. Um, and then I eventually, through YouTube, I taught myself the Song of Storms from Legend of Zelda
Nice.
and Leaves from the Vine from Avatar.
Oh,
Uh, yeah,
speaking of emotional.
I know. And Avatar is one of the first shows that made me cry. I love
Oh
that
yeah.
show. I've rewatched it 7 times. Um, but I learned Leaves from the Vine out of spite because I thought how funny would it be to go to a like a party and bust out a guitar and everyone expects Wonderwall and instead you bust out Leaves from the Vine. and
You
it,
know, there's a very niche group of people that would really appreciate that, though, I'm sure.
Absolutely, the people I run around with, they would love it and then hate me forever.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a sign of love when your friends wish you were dead.
And then after you finish the song, just be like, Edward.
That took too long for me to place. My brain was like, "Don't do it," and then I figure it out.
To all the podcast listeners, I apologize for nothing.
I don't either. In fact, I just found a thumbnail for the episode. Um, or you finish you finish Leaves in the Vine and go, and now for part two, and then you play Wonderwall. It's a version of expectation. Um, Speaking on the whole hardcore stop, like what kind of struggles have you faced over your time? I mean, what was your wall, and more than that, like just what was the
Um,
reality of playing music?
so my my journey is a little like every musician's journey is kind of unique. I've had friends. I perform for a living, so I've had a lot of friends ask me like how I did that and what do they need to do to be able to play for a living, and I can't ever really give them an answer because everyone's answer to how they do it is a little different. Um, the struggles I faced have been that transition into that was I went to school for theater and I moved to Austin, where I'm still at now, um, wanting to do theater stuff. And with that intention in mind, so started working in a kitchen because I like to cook and I know my way around a kitchen. So started working for this place. They had music. They wanted someone to take over their booking, and I was like, I can do music and run an open mic here. Um, and I was doing really well for a while I was going out for auditions and things like that. And suddenly I walked into work on a Wednesday and one of my coworkers said, "Hey, this place is closing on Friday." Um, and it closed without a paycheck basically.
Oof.
Um, so I had to figure some stuff out to pay rent really quickly. And a musician friend that I had met in this scene introduced me to my booking agent, who I still work with, a woman named Tammy Miranda. Tammy booked me at a venue downtown on 6th Street. Um, about 30 minutes into my show, she texted me like, "Hey, they love you. Do you want to play there every Saturday?" And I said, "Yes. I really need work. Like, I'm still job hunting because I need to pay rent." And she ended up giving me like 3 or 4 other shows. Those other places loved me too. And before I knew it, I was playing like 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week. I woke up like a year later, like I've been doing this for a year, and I was supposed to be looking for a job, but I guess this is my job now. um, that came with its own struggles in the sense of learning how to budget differently. I would have. It's a very interesting scene in that I'm one of the few brown people in my scene, if that makes sense. um, so occasionally, for a long while, I would walk into a venue and then people would walk out before I even started playing, and I've heard people say stuff like, "Oh, I don't want to hear any Spanish music," before I even start playing anything. Um, that doesn't really bother me that much. Uh, but in playing for a living, going out and being constantly downtown and around the bar industry, uh, I became an alcoholic. So I would drink all day throughout my show, go out right after my show, and continue drinking downtown because I had met everyone downtown, so could drink basically for free. My days off, I would spend drinking. Uh, and then eventually that came to a head about 6.5 years ago, um, when I went to the hospital for liver stuff. Uh, that the doctors told me, stop drinking, you're gonna die. So I said, okay, cool, and been sober ever since. But that also came with some struggles in being around the bar industry with the way that I was partying in my 20s and playing out and everything, having to relearn how to play out, perform out with the constant temptation of alcohol there. Um, that used to be really tough. Now that I'm year 6 into sobriety, it's way easier. Like it's my new norm to not drink. So those are some of the struggles that I've had, but mostly financially. It's not the most lucrative job in the world, but I'm able to pay my bills with it, and I'm happy, which I think a lot of people have trouble saying when it comes to their job.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. The life of an adjunct professor, oh, I said the name of the podcast, is not the one
Yeah,
of luxury cars and parties. It very much is a paycheck to paycheck world, and sometimes even paycheck to phone call to mom kind of world. Uh,
yeah. I think that's our generation though, because like the dollar's just not stretching as far as it used to.
no, you will own nothing and you will be happy.
You will own nothing. You will rent your entire life and be happy about it.
Absolutely, but I do appreciate the view of like happiness is not a measure of wealth.
Yeah.
I had there was an English teacher I once had a long time ago, and she told us there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. A rich person
Mhm.
has all the money in the world and they have no one to share it with. A wealthy person who's someone who is just happy, you know,
Yeah.
friendship, community, love. You can be wealthy in life and be broke as shit. They're
Yeah.
just not the same thing.
And there's certainly gaps in that within my industry. Like a lot of the people I know, majority of my friends, um, at least within my I'll say my graduating class, my peers that I came up in the music scene with.
Mm.
All of us play for a living pretty much. So the times that we get FaceTime with one another is far and few in between because like if I'm working Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, usually my closest friends are playing shows at the exact same time, exact same days somewhere else. So we're all kind of working within proximity of one another. Um, but we don't really get too much of the like let's just hang out time, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, unless you're someone who has, a regular gig, like playing the same place every single week on the exact same time, I mean, you probably don't
Yeah.
know what your schedule is for the week until the day before something's going on.
Yeah, I'm fortunate in that because I host an open mic and I've been hosting open mics for 15 years now, roughly. um, I have a consistent weekly gig of I'm gonna be here on this day from this time. Uh, and I get the occasional pop in from friends who are like, "Oh, I was off on a Monday. Figured I'd come see you and hang out." So that's really nice that I have friends who know where I'm gonna be and they'll come and hang out with me.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh, even
that's
though I'm working a little bit.
yeah, but it's nice to know that at least there's, you know, you know where to find me, kind of feeling to
You
it.
know where to find me. You don't have to check my calendar. It's a Monday. You know where I'm gonna be.
Yeah, because I feel like there is kind of a stigma. Like when you think of musician, you think, oh man, parties every night, you know, drinks and hang out, and you sleep all day, you rock and roll all night, and that's, I mean, what, 2% of everyone who's
I
ever
mean,
engaged in music professionally.
you can do that. You can do that, and I certainly did that in my 20s. Um, but the older you get and the more experience you get with it, the less appealing that becomes, I think.
Mm.
Um, like going out and like I would say when I was playing downtown a lot, I would go and play like a 3 to 6 show, and then I'd be out till 3 in the morning. Um, Nowadays with my dog and everything, it's like I go play a 3 to 6 show, and I'll maybe stop in one or two places just to say hi to friends, but then I'm right back home by like 7:30. I'm hanging out with my dog. And then maybe I'll go out a little bit later, depending on if I have an early show the next day or a night show or something. But typically not too much into the partying that hard anymore. I'm a lot more calm. Also don't want to spend the money.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, eventually when we have payment plans for our Wendy's, maybe we'll go out more.
You know, right.
When we
I
can
need to
pay
put some nuggies put some nuggies on layaway.
when I can start using what is it? Pay later
Yeah,
for
for Wendy's.
for my Taco Bell. Man, I love
Yeah.
Taco Bell. It's a problem.
Oh, I'm actually drinking the dirty Baja Blast.
What is that?
It's a viral thing from this girl from Utah. It's the Baja Blast, but with creamer in it.
Sounds awful.
It's freaking delicious.
Just any creamer at the
I don't
whim
know.
of the.
I don't know what creamer they use, but like it tastes like a dreamsicle.
Well, this is the thing Taco Bell does. Like you can say, "Can I get a dirty whatever?" and they'll just do it.
Yeah, it's like a dreamsicle, but with Baja Blast.
Huh? The creamer is the cheese they left out and it became a goo.
Probably.
um. So I wanted to ask as well. I hate interrupting conversation for questions, but there's so much I want to say, or so much I want to
No, yeah.
ask.
I'm
Um,
here for you, man.
one of the things I did want to know is like, your style of music. You have a lot of songs that I would describe as like storytelling. Like
Hmm.
it's not just music to me. A lot of the time when I hear one of your songs, I can hear a story coming through. Like um the one we've talked about before, it's Eyes of the Father, Hands of the Mother, or do I have that
Uh,
backwards?
My hardest days.
Yes. That's one of those songs that I listen to when I'm having a really harsh day, and it's to me it's a story of just like learning how to deal with the fact that life can be kind of unfair sometimes, but that doesn't mean you gotta just take it sitting down.
Yeah.
And you know, so I wanted to ask, like, what exactly, what is your style? Do you have a style, and how do you know what to
Um.
write?
So with that song specifically, the lyrics, "Hands of my father and eyes of my mother." came to me in a dream. Um, I was asleep, obviously, because that's where you dream. Uh,
Well,
and
my students would disagree.
fair, fair. I had this really, I can't even describe the rest of the dream, but there was just a voice that was saying, "Hands of my father, eyes of my mother." There was just a voice that kept saying that over and over and over. And I woke up, and those two lines were just in my head, and I was trying to fall back asleep, and just this voice kept telling me, "Write this down, write this down, write this down, write this down." So I rolled over, put it in my notes, immediately passed back out. But I was struggling for like 30 minutes to try to fall back asleep and just to let it go. um, and I woke up, composed a song, and I actually wrote the song before my sobriety. Um, and the song was kind of the idea of kind of recognizing for myself that I had an issue.
Hmm.
Not necessarily admitting it, but part of me was giving me a warning that I had an issue and the that I had people there for me and I had something to fall and rely on. Which is like I remember the visuals in the dream were like my dad's hands being very very rough, and he grew up a migrant worker, so he was out picking cotton and fruits and everything his whole life. So he has very rough hands. And my mother's always had very kind eyes. Same with my grandmother. Um, and those two visuals just kept popping out at me, and I think like a lot of that song is me not wanting to see my mom cry. But as far as the way that I construct stuff, the way that I write, I I got tired of pop music not saying anything.
Hmm.
And a friend of mine told me once that there's two types of musicians. There are performers and there are writers. And he said to me that I'm a writer. So I kind of embrace that, and I want to, when I'm creating something, I want to write it in a way that hasn't really been written before, and not necessarily like written by anyone else, but in a way that I haven't written it before. So I'm constantly like referencing some of my older material or stuff that I've shelved or put in a drawer or something. Um, and how can I say this thing, this idea, but differently? And can I incorporate a story around it? It's kind of the way that I approach things. And how specific do I want to be? Okay, I'll be really, really specific. Then I'll edit it and make it vague. It's
That's,
kind of my process.
I mean, that's you have a very strong point. Because there is, I when I was younger, I used to be a piece of shit. I'm not much
Didn't we
better.
all?
I'm not much better now, but at least I can recognize it. Um, but I definitely went through a moment in like high school and undergrad where I would tell people like they say what kind of music do you listen to? I'm like honestly right now nothing because I'm kind of tired of just words to the exact same beat for the 8,000th time.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what eventually led me to uh, artists like Kendrick Lamar because a lot of
Yeah.
Kendrick songs are not just like bullshit.
Kendrick's a fantastic lyricist.
Yeah, we studied Kendrick Lamar's lyrics in my class one time as because there's always the rap is really poetry, and then someone plays you like Nicki Minaj, and you're like, well, one, this is barely rap, and two, this ain't poetry. Uh, but
I am doing my best in my the older I get to not throw too much shade at the young pop stars. So if Nicki Minaj is your bag, okay,
Well,
you enjoy that.
I'm young, so I'm allowed to be an asshole, and I think her music blows ass. I haven't
Okay.
listened. I haven't listened to anything that she's done since I think she collabed with like Justin Bieber in like 2012.
I will say, I think she has a very strong flow from a hip hop standpoint.
Yes,
Like she's got a really strong flow. Lyrically, I don't know.
yeah, but yeah, like Kendrick is poetry, and the same reason I enjoy him, the same reason I enjoy a lot of your music is I can hear not just the story, but I can hear like the heart. Like it's not just this is something a dude told me one time on the street, and I thought I could turn a song into this. Like a lot of it is like, no, you can hear it in his voice and hear it in the lyrics. Like this is him. This is a story. That he is telling an experience he knows.
Yeah.
Um, what
Speaking of like experience that there's there was a long time where uh when I was thanking you for enjoying my music, it's for a very specific reason because there was a long time that I didn't like when someone identified with my songs. Um, because from an empathetic standpoint, like my thought process was like, I'm sorry that you went through something like this too, or I'm sorry that you felt this way too. It was more having sympathy for someone that was empathizing with me, and that sat wrong with me for a long time. And I'm now trying to accept it as a good thing that maybe what I've created is helpful in some way versus focusing on the possible negative aspects of the songs that I wrote. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
no, absolutely. I mean, it is one of those things where you share a story and someone walks up to you and says, man, I really empathize with that. Like, I can really understand where you're coming from. And your first thought, like you were saying, is, damn, that sucks. it's
Yeah.
it's a
It's like, ugh.
I really really hate that you know exactly what I'm talking about because it means that we've had kind of a shitty experience to bond over. It's why trauma bonding is so popular now.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, there's some beauty in a shared human experience, even if that experience is not necessarily the most pleasant thing in the world. Um, it's a commonality that we all kind of share, and to find that with other people is the reason like a lot of the bigger artists and stuff like that. Like when you go to a big show and you see like hundreds or thousands of people at these shows, every single person out there has their own unique tie to this artist. Like maybe this particular song saved this, like from this artist, saved that person's life. Um, and I think that that aspect is kind of what started me changing my mentality of like, no, this can be a beautiful thing versus I have to feel sad about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's one of the reasons I'm so vocal about my own like struggles with mental health and everything is, and I've told this. It was probably completely inappropriate, but it was like a somewhat answer to an interview question. When I was doing an
Okay.
interview one time, and it's very basically this idea of like I share my stories and I share my struggles because my hope is that no one ever has to have the same experience because
Yeah.
there's an almost I don't want to say misplaced joy, but like an almost macabre joy and appreciation and knowing that someone else has seen what you've seen and gone through what you've gone through because at least it means you're not alone. And
Yeah.
if someone
That
hears your music, then at least you know that they were helped by what you had to say.
yeah. And as far as like mental health stuff goes, like the first time I ever experienced a panic attack um was terrifying. I mean, they're still terrifying to this day. Anytime I haven't had one in a long time, thankfully, knock on wood. But I thought I broke my brain. like I didn't know what was happening to me, and then learning that other people have experienced the same type of thing was strangely comforting. Um, I was like, I'm so sorry that you're having like that you've experienced this, but it feels it makes me feel a lot better to know that I'm not alone in this feeling. My dad's never had a panic attack, and when I tried to describe it to him, he was like, I don't know what that's like. I don't understand. And my response to him was, I am grateful that you don't understand. I'm truly, truly grateful
I
because I don't want anyone to experience that.
yeah, I uh I think my first panic attack was in middle school, and they made me MC for a robotics competition, which is a job I was not prepared for because I'm very, very socially anxious and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Despite how I appeared to a lot of people, and it was terrifying. Like all of a sudden, like my vision got kind of blurry. I felt lightheaded. You know, my heart was pounding, and I couldn't. I was sweating. I didn't know what was wrong. And yeah, eventually I got a hang of them because of my friends.
Yeah.
And I came home from college one time and I had a panic attack. It was probably something on TV triggered it. Who knows? And I was like, oh man, I think I'm having a panic attack. My parents were like, what do we do? What do we do? And I was like, just give me a minute. And I went to my room, got my weighted blanket, got my essential oil diffuser, and just sat there in the dark. And my dad walked by and he's like, hey, doing any better? And I say, yeah, my heart rate's gone down. I'm now at 110 instead of 127. And he walked over and he goes, so is this what happens every time? And I'm like, kinda. I mean,
Pretty much.
there's differences here and there, but this is pretty much every time. And he goes, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. It's like it's an aspect of me, you know?
Yeah. I've gotten to a point where it's almost like a little game uh that I play with myself as far as panic attacks go. Because it's like, all right, brain, what new thing are you gonna throw at me with this one?
was it
Like,
was it the color purple or the smell of the nachos?
exactly. Like what? Okay, you've thrown a lot at me, and I figured it out, and I figured out how to counter all these other ones. So now you're gonna throw something new at me. What is it?
I,
Come on.
I didn't hear sirens, and I'm not smelling like Febreze, you know, tropical scent. So I know it's not those.
Yeah,
You know,
it's as that might sound morbid, but that's the game that I play with my brain when these happen.
it's. I mean, it might be morbid, but there is there's there's like a satisfying pleasure in taking the worst parts of yourself and turning it into a game that play in your favor.
I mean, it's definitely a coping mechanism. So
Well, you know, coping is fun sometimes.
yeah,
It's fun. I was gonna say, and my partner who can attest to this too. There have been times where I'll be walking around the apartment and all of a sudden I'll just start singing the chorus to like Ocean Atlas or
nice.
there's another one that, of course, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not gonna remember it until about 25 minutes from now. When we hang up and I'm gonna be lying in bed, and I don't know why. It's just every so often I'll just catch myself to like humming along the chorus. And it's like, why am I doing this? And it's like, oh, it's because it's special now. Like it's it's a calming thing, and it's also like, again, it's a
Dave, it's
personal thing. You know, I can see the words, see the story, and kind of feel myself moving through. I'm like, oh, okay, there are people out
also
there.
a huge compliment that I've created earworms for you.
Well, I mean, I don't want to discredit that, but I have caught myself sometimes singing the Barney theme song too. So, what does that say about me as a person?
The Barney theme song is iconic. Okay.
Have you seen what they've done to Barney?
I'm afraid to look that up because you just said that sentence, but I'm gonna look it up right now.
If you
What
want
have
to,
they done to Barney?
if you want to talk about corporate intervention, look at the new animated Barney TV show and look up just the theme song. My partner showed it to me, and I spent the rest of the day angry.
Okay, well, first of all, I hate the animation.
It's corporate minimalism.
Oh my God, Barney, what have they done to you, my boy? I'll listen to that song after the podcast.
Oh yeah, no, it's rough, man. It kind of hurts.
They did to Barney what they did to Spyro.
Oh God. They've done to Barney what M Night Shyamalama Ding Dong did to Avatar.
Oh
It just
God,
kind of took the heart and soul and said, "What if we didn't have this?"
it's the Dragon Ball evolution of animation.
Jeez, God, it's the ratatouille of children's shows.
Oof.
No one will know what I mean by that.
Ratatouille.
No, there's some company that all of their money comes from making fake knockoff versions of actual movies.
Oh, Power
Which,
World.
all right, Power World's a good game though. Don't make me do a part two. I kill my friend.
I just lost half your viewers.
All three of them.
I'm all three of them. I'm so sorry. I enjoy Power World. I do.
I like Power World. I like it because it's doing what Pokemon is too afraid to do.
Give us guns.
Give me a pistol. Let me shoot Charmander. He deserves it.
Give us guns and let me enslave humans.
Dude, I sell humans in that game on a whim. It's hilarious.
This is the part of the podcast that's going to get edited out.
This is the part that's gonna become a part two exclusive for members only.
There you go.
I do want to ask because this is we're kind of going in that direction, and it relates very very much to the episode I just recorded today. I don't know if this episode is going to go up before or after. It kind of depends on some stuff.
Okay.
But I was talking about this today, a little preview on the podcast episode I recorded, and I was talking about sort of the pros and cons of the rise of AI just as a general concept.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked about it on, you know, as an adjunct professor of English, it's inevitable that someone's going to try it to try to write an essay using some kind of program. And every semester thus far, for the 3 years I've been teaching at college, there's always been at least one. There's never been a class where there was never any. Uh, and the problem to me is it takes the humanity out of creativity and gives it over to somebody else. And
Mm-hmm.
it's basically us admitting that we'd rather have someone else tell us what kind of art we want to make and
Yeah.
what stories we want to tell. And so I wanted to ask sort of what is, I mean, have you seen robots taking over music, or I mean what's
So,
cost benefit?
so I have seen so far. I have a buddy who will remain nameless.
But his name rhymes with
um,
Schmamuel.
his name rhymes with Pike. Yeah. He took some lyrics that he wrote and he uploaded them into AI and then gave it a prompt. He basically took his lyrics and said, "Make butt rock, like dad butt rock."
Sonic video game franchise.
Yes. Nickelback, but worse. Actually, I like Nickelback.
The Sonic
So
franchise.
yeah. So he uploaded the songs, and from my personal taste in music, I don't like that genre very much. It's not something that I seek. Um, and it wasn't his voice. He's still putting it out under his name.
Mm.
It's like his creation. I think that is the worst parts, like, of what people are going to do with AI. They're just going to upload half-written, terribly written gibberish and make super mechanical pop type songs. Um, I think AI can benefit as a tool to clean up lyricism, It can benefit as a tool to give melody ideas uh, for musicians. I think it's definitely going to be abused, and it's definitely going to be way overused. But this is just my personal feeling. I'm in no way an expert on it. I think what it's going to cause within the music scene is people to seek imperfection
Mm.
because it's going to be perfect. Um, so when you go to a live show, like it's a live performance, and sometimes flubs happen. I've seen it happen to the best of them. I've seen Slipknot mess up. I've seen Metallica mess up. I've seen guitar singer songwriters like, oop, fuck up that note. um, or someone not hit a vocal note that they're doing. And then just continue on, like push through it, as professionals do. But I think it's gonna cause the maybe not the general masses, but the type of people that are seeking music, that are genuinely seeking music and seeking an experience, to come out even more in droves because they're tired of all the same old kind of gibberish on the radio.
Small
That
detour, but you
Go
you
ahead.
you brought it up, and now I gotta ask. As someone who's smarter about music than I am, is the essence of jazz to fuck up as much as you want and see if it still makes a song?
um, Jazz. I will not pretend that I know the most about jazz. I have a lot of jazz musician friends, and jazz sounds very, very unstructured, but it's how can I describe this? It's like if you have a box, and in this box is labeled E. Let's say that. So that's the key of E. You throw in every note into this box that works with the key of E, and then maybe a few that don't. And you jumble it around, and you have free reign to play all within that. And you make it work. You make the puzzle pieces of that work. Is kind of how I'll describe jazz. Um, it's still all going to be in the same key. It's still all going to supposed to fit this box of this structure that is the box of E. But you might get a little weird with it. Um, Jazz musicians are extremely knowledgeable, and they know theory, and they know every note on the guitar, and they know, like, I know this seventh is going to go into this third, into this diminished, into this all these other words that I pretend to know how to use properly. Um, I think a lot of it, for me personally, just my personal opinion, because they are so knowledgeable, they lose the heart. Um, I'll describe it in this way. I have three guitarist friends: a guy named David, a guy named Rio, and a guy named um, Julian. So Julian is all feeling. Like he doesn't know a single note on the guitar. Like he doesn't know anything about theory. He's just all feeling. I mean, he's all just I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play. David's all structure. He's all knows every theory, knows all like what notes are supposed to work. He's very mathematical with it. And Rio's right in the middle. He knows a little bit of theory enough to get by, but mostly heart and mostly feeling. He will bend a note until the string breaks or the note works. And Julian's the very same way. Like he'll bend a string until the string breaks or the note works. David won't miss a string. and it all comes down to your personal preference,
I
what you like listening to.
I wrote a paper once for grad school about how there was this panic in the early 2000s with the rise of text messaging that kids would be so obsessed with trying to find shortcuts that they were going to forget how to use English at all, and how writing and talking was just going to explode pretty much.
Gibbity.
And exactly, skippity riz sigma Ohio. And I wrote this paper with the conclusion of that's kind of dumb. And with the research I found and what I put together, I kind of came up. I found and then I guess expanded on this idea of like the presence of things like slang and shorthand does not show a lack of understanding. It shows immense mastery, because before you can break the rules, you
You
have
have
to
to know the
learn what
rules.
they are. Exactly. And so the fact that students could take these words and tear them apart to the most basic of pieces that anyone could understand because the sound is still there, like that's talent, that's skill. And I guess in a lot of ways jazz is kind of like that. It's you know so much that you know exactly how to do it wrong, that it's perfectly right.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to look at it.
And yeah, I like that what you said about, you know, you kind of lose the heart of it, so you find it by playing, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's music is subjective. It's I think it's one of the few things that there's no right or wrong to it, unless like you're purposely playing something really wrong. But even then, jazz finds a way to purposely play things wrong and then make it work.
The only time I could ever say that a piece of music was objectively like
Wrong.
bad and wrong was when my dad showed me a video of Yoko Ono at the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yes, it was with the Johnny Be Good.
Yeah, and she just started and the board op like unplugged her mic or something.
Yes,
But
I remember that.
it is one of those things where it's art is art, and art exists in a void. Like it doesn't, it's not owned by one person, nor does it interpreted by one person. It exists in a void of all of it.
Yeah,
And it's for the people who are there to decide what it is.
yeah.
Um,
I had a teacher in high school that said it's not art if everyone appreciates it,
I'm
which
going to steal that.
yeah, I kind of love, and I remembered it still to this day. Like it's not art if everyone appreciates it.
That's actually really
Um,
cool. I like that a lot.
he was a genius. He really was. Really hard grader.
um, and actually, so that kind of leads me back to not to harp on it, but the idea of AI, because I mean, it is a tool. Um, spoilers for the podcast I recorded. Oh God, oh no. Uh, but my idea, and like you said, I am a no by any means a professional. I'm just a teacher who teaches English and has seen what it does,
Mhm.
and it's a tool. If when you hit writer's block, uh when you hit a wall on the road, something like ChatGPT is the thing that can get you around it. You know, you're sitting there trying to get an essay started and you just can't think of nothing. And
Yeah,
you ask it like, "Hey, what's a good essay topic for, you know, a creative analysis?" And it gives you 35 ideas and you're like, "Oh, number 7, that's kind of cool." And then you start your research. You've gotten the kick in
yeah,
the ass to start doing the work, and now you're exploring. The,
yeah. It's a
the
good thing to point you in a direction. It shouldn't be the entire direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so it has its place. This idea of like it needs to be eradicated, I think, is kind of bullshit, because it's I mean it's the next step of human intervention. The fact that we are finding a way to make a computer think and understand.
Mhm.
But I also think it's very dangerous to just sort of let it do its own thing and just give into it. Just be like, I don't, get Coca-Cola. We need a commercial for the holiday. What should we do? Have the robot make a Christmas commercial, and then it'll cost us $1,000. We'll save 10 million, and everyone
Mhm.
hated it.
Yeah.
um, Half because it was poor quality, and half because it meant that so many creative people didn't get the job to be creative.
Yeah.
So I think it's a tool that can really help you get where you want to go, but it should not be the thing that's driving the car.
Yeah. And I'm probably surprisingly, I'm in support of AI. Um, I'm in support of AI to be utilized as a tool. Um, I don't feel threatened as a musician. I don't feel threatened by AI that it's going to come and take all our jobs and make the idea of writing music obsolete. Um, because I don't think, at least at this point, um, it can recreate or create genuine human experience. Um, and I mean, we want that digital escape when it comes to like playing a video game. I don't think we necessarily want that digital escape when it comes to something as important to the human experience as music.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even so, I haven't seen any AI video games. I know that there's companies that are utilizing it or trying to make stuff like it or make it work with things. I haven't seen like an all AI video game, uh, but there's still like those storytelling elements and everything like that that video games invoke, that music invokes, that going to see a play or a movie invokes. Those emotional experiences that are all across the spectrum. I don't think AI can create a genuine version of that a genuine version of that humans will be able to identify as genuine.
I
In the way that we can only see.
Yeah, I have seen two video games, which I guess you can classify as fully AI. It's there is no voice acting. It's all the NPCs and all the characters um, use a text to speech kind of human vocaloid sort of program, and all the words are generated by an AI. Um,
Hmm.
I've seen two, and the first one's like a detective game where you're trying to solve crime, and the AI is constantly causing more crimes in the background that you then have to solve before the next crime starts. That's like a
Crime.
Yeah, exactly. We're teaching AI how to murder. And it's supposed to be like a progressive, fully randomized video game because you don't know what the crimes are going to commit. You don't know who the suspects are. It's like a real thing. And the other one is this weird game where like you're a vampire and it's a neighborhood of AI like people, and you have to convince your neighbors to let you into their house so you could kill them.
Interesting. That sounds
Yeah.
fun.
They're fun, but it's one of those things where like it's AI talking to you and AI having conversations. And so the conversations aren't human. Like there is no humanity behind what you're saying. It's all just sort of checks and balances, ones and zeros, yes and no. Um, so like for the vampire game, you're like, they open the door and you're just a Santa Claus, and you're like, I'm Santa Claus. I you should let me in your home so I can give you presents. And the AI's response is, I can see you are dressed as Santa Claus, and it is December, which would make it make sense for you to be Santa Claus. However, I do not believe you are Santa Claus because Santa Claus would be fatter. Can you prove to me why you're not fat? And it's like, that's like not how a human speaks.
Yeah.
There's,
And honestly, that's just going to get better with time.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think, like, even if it's perfectly human, I don't know. I feel like you can tell when there's a heart behind something. Like when there actually
Yeah.
is a compassion to what's being done.
Yeah.
Or like music.
Well, because there's also the room for error with people. And I don't think AI recognizes a room for error.
Yeah. No
Uh,
person's infallible.
yeah. Whereas AI is infallible, at least at this point. It's trying to become infallible.
Yeah. Um there was one of
Anyway, I am fully embracing our robot overlords.
the I tell my Alexa thank you every time it does something for me. Um but there is one of the things I look for when I'm trying to see if a paper is written by AI is if it's perfect. Um,
Hmm.
in music, you call it improvisation when someone messes up, and it just makes the song different. You know, no one performs a song the same way every single time. You
Yeah.
know, there's always some kind of change to it, whether it be your pacing or your tone, or you miss a chord and you just sort of run with it.
Sometimes I forget the lyrics.
Right. But at when the Rolling Stones just I think last year released Hackney Diamonds, their I think fifth studio album. I don't entirely remember. It's an album they released, meaning that they were like one of the first bands in history to have an album released across 5 decades.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
and they just released Hackney Diamonds, and those guys are old, and especially Keith Richards, he was doing everything. He was on everything.
Keith Richards and Mick Jagger are never going to die because they are perfectly preserved internally because of all the drugs they did.
It's the episode of The Simpsons where Mr. Burns has every single disease, and the reason he's so healthy is because no one disease can take over because they're all fighting each other.
Exactly. That's exactly what the Rolling Stones are.
But they were performing "Angry," which was the first song on the album, and Keith Richards completely forgot his solo, and they laughed it off, and they kept going, and no one in the audience could realize because they were all just having so much, just a fun time. There's
Which, oh man, such that'd be such a beautiful thing to like. Because I've been working with a band for 2 years now. And we're about to hit the studio in April, and I just have so much fun playing with this band. I have so much fun with them. Um, because the audience doesn't know when we fuck up. We do.
yeah,
And we've gotten better about hiding it to the audience versus like letting them in on the joke. Um, but it's such a beautiful experience on stage to like all kind of mess up at the same time and then just keep going.
yeah. When in writing, in the world of writing, those little quirks you do where things are done incorrectly or things are done wrong or you misuse a thing, we call that voice. And
Yeah,
that's the writer's voice. They do little quirks, which means they break a certain rule, but they do it because in their voice, it's it's right. It makes the most sense.
kind of how Chuck Palahniuk with his punctuations and his sentence structures is very much his voice.
Oh yeah. What's his name? The comedian who was on SNL. Uh,
Dave Chappelle was recent.
no, not recent. The only thing I remember is he did the Continental for old school SNL. Walken.
Oh yeah, Christopher Walken.
Yeah, my dad told me once that whenever he gets a script, the first thing he does is erase all the punctuation. Uh,
Nice.
and then he just reads the script, and wherever he would naturally pause or stop, that's just what he does. And so it's this really weird way of speaking that to us is grammatically horrendous, but to him is his style, and he's become famous for it because that's his
Yeah,
voice.
yeah.
So
I didn't know he did that. That makes complete sense.
yeah, apparently, yeah. The first he said it was some interview probably in like the '70s where he said like, yeah, when he gets a script, the first thing he does is just cross out the punctuation. Doesn't even look at it.
Hmm, I like that. That's that's added to my Christopher Walken lore.
There you go. I always know something, but yeah, there's one musician on YouTube I really like. You ever heard of Rob Scallon?
The name sounds very familiar.
His big song is "Rain." which has the entire song, the background, like the background track is reverb. So it's what he's playing reverb two times behind him and slightly behind and delayed.
Interesting.
And it makes this sort of majestic, like ethereal kind of sound.
Yeah, I can imagine like an overture coming in, like building and building and building.
Right. It's building, but it never reaches its peak.
Yeah.
But there's like a beauty to it because it never overplays itself. Um
Hmm.
but yeah, it's one of those things where it's one of those songs where when I'm having a not cool day or I just need a break, it's what I play because it makes me
Yeah.
feel a kind of way that sort of helps me reset and recenter.
I have a song like that right now. It's called No Surprise by an artist named Warhouse.
Hmm.
And I discovered this artist because my favorite artist introduced me to him. Um, my favorite band is The Used, but there's an artist that I follow that I need to send you some of his stuff if I haven't already. Local artist named David Ramirez,
Mhm.
who I have loved his music for 15 years. Um, and it's very weird to be friends with him now because I'm like constantly internally fanboying whenever I talk to him or interact with him. But his music is like what I aspire towards as an artist. Uh, and I was in Nashville this summer for a wedding, and he happened to be in town just on vacation. And so I messaged him and I was like, "Hey, I'm in Nashville too. We should hang out and you have a beer and I'll have water." And he met up with me and we just hung out for a couple hours. He bought me a hat, which is like a treasure to me now. Uh and we just talked music and life and just got to know each other better. And he introduced I asked him who he was listening to right now and he said Warhouse. And I looked him up as soon as I like got back to my hotel. And that's just my vibe right now.
all of grad school, I got introduced by an Instagram ad to a symphonic metal band called Mute Prophet,
Ooh.
and they were my soundtrack in grad school because it's orchestrally loud. So it's
Yeah.
just it's loud music to drown out the demons, but it's very pretty to make the the rest of the demons happy about it. Um, but yeah, it
You gotta feed the demons sometimes.
exactly. I actually just made not to show my own shit, but last night I was hit with a burst of creativity, and I made a new shirt for my merch store. That
Ooh.
that just says we all have demons, mine have fluffy tails.
I love that. I love that. For some reason that made me picture someone like bottle feeding a demon baby.
Well, I'm gonna have to redesign the shirt. Special edition taco collab.
Yes.
This one
Like
features a demon with a foxtail
with a foxtail and then like just someone holding it and
being bottle
feeding it.
fed.
Bottle fed.
Well, now, all right, limited edition, the first limited edition run. Get it now.
It's
Uh,
obviously being bottle fed whiskey or something.
the,
But
it's gonna say like Mac
like
Daniels
moonshine.
on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Instead of like Macallan or something.
Yeah, moonshine. It's just gonna be Bacardi 151. They can't sue because it's not being sold anymore. So eat it.
Just put triple X on it.
I'm gonna make the okay. Now the baby has to look like that old man from How the Grinch Stole Christmas
Oh, yeah.
with the ball of hooch around his neck.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Oh man, I'm glad there's someone else here to witness the ADHD that is this podcast.
Hopefully this could be used in some capacity.
No,
I
this we're on an hour 15 now, and this is probably my favorite episode to date.
Well, awesome.
A, because you're just really fun to talk to, and B, because it's nice to have insight into a field that I've only ever seen from the outside. Um, yeah,
Well, what is the question? What is the burning question you have about the life of a musician? Is there like one or two burning questions you got?
man, well, I will say, as silly as it is, I've always wanted to ask. I did it earlier when I asked you like, what would you describe your style as, and how do you write your music? It's
Hmm.
it's always been a desire of mine to ask a musician like, how do you do music? How does music happen?
So another way it happens to me, because I've developed different ways of writing, because it doesn't always happen the exact same way. Sometimes the lyrics come to me in a dream, and I try to come up with something around that. Sometimes a melody will pop into my head. Sometimes I just I used to do this thing for a long time where I'd grab my guitar and I just hold it for a minute and I just ask it, where do I need to be? And then I just kind of move my hand up and down the fretboard until something struck me. And then I'd start building around that. And if I came up with a melody around a chord structure, and then I'd kind of see where that wave took me. And sometimes the wave only takes me like a verse. Sometimes I can't even get a verse out. Sometimes the wave takes me the entire song. Um, and I just have to be lucky enough to remember everything that I wrote down or everything that I sang. Voice memos help a lot.
Mm.
Um, my song Fortune off of my second album, the last song on the album, I was about to drive over to my producer's house to like get a final listen of the album. Because I had my 10 songs that I was like, okay, this is the album. And I'm in the shower and I just start singing a melody, start humming a melody. And I just put my voice memo on and I sang that entire song, Stream of Consciousness, every lyric, Stream of Consciousness. I think I had like 8 verses that I sang in the same melody. Um, got out of the shower, listened to it, wrote it down, um, chopped it up, and I went to my producer's house and I'm like, I know I said that we're done, but I have to record this. So plug stuff in. And because I didn't have any guitar part, I had no idea what to do with the song. And he's just like, he heard it and he's like, okay, it's in this key. We'll do this and then we'll do this and we'll do this. And built it in like an hour and then put it on the album.
I have listened to that album, Kings, Queens, and Monsters, I think 100 times over at this point. I could probably hum every song off that album because there's a feeling to it that's just so just like and capturing. Like
Thank you.
I've never listened to that album in its entirety and thought, man, I wish there was more here. Like I don't know, it's just like this is it. Like I hear it all, I'm like, all right, we did it, we got it. Um,
It's definitely that it was constructed in a very specific way, to kind of have that feeling, honestly.
it worked.
Um, good to know years later.
It good. Uh,
Because
uh,
the first album, I was throwing shit at the wall, and that's what came out. I had to get something out. Second album, I'm like, I want structure. This is the structure I want. Bam.
I think. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and the third album was just like, I have to follow that shit.
I I think what got me so invested in a lot of your music as well was it is that kind of range. Like I hear um when I'm streaming and your music is set to shuffle for my stream, so that way there is no hopefully people aren't hearing the same song too many times because I want everyone to hear like everything, and so nothing ever feels old or outdated or like deja vu. Um, but it'll go from songs like Ocean Atlas and then move into Chasing Giants, and then it will
Mhm.
move into Two Wolves, and every song has this like distinct personality to it, and it's that which got me so invested in your music in the first place, is this idea of like every song has its personality and no two songs sound the same, but they all sound like they go together.
Awesome.
I don't know if that
That's
explains it at all.
no, that's wonderful to hear. I'm glad that that's how it comes across.
If I can make any
'Cause
recommendations, it's more violin, damn it.
I will, I'll see what Liz is doing, my violinist, for the next string of stuff that I put out.
Hell yeah.
Um, because she's who I usually go with, and I love her. I love Liz to death, and I send her the song and the key, and I say, "This is how it's gonna. This is a song. Listen to it once or twice, and then come in." And she comes in, and I ask her, "Did you listen to it?" She's like, "I listened to a little bit," and then she just plays,
Because
does one take, and goes home.
because I think it's somewhere to start where it leads in with that violin, and I'm like, ah, oh, more of that. Do it again.
Yeah, that's just Liz being Liz. Uh, she is. She's a blessing. I love her. She's the quirkiest little human that I know. Um, but she doesn't take herself too seriously as a musician. I'll randomly text her, "Hey, I'm playing a 4-hour show. You want to swing by and jump on stage?" And she'll be like, "Okay." And she'll drift through, and she'll walk to the stage and be like, "Hey." And she plugs in, and I'm like, "What key do you want to do?" She's like, "Do you have anything in A?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I start playing something. She's like, "Oh, okay, let's do that." That's exactly how she talks, by the way.
All right, next podcast guest,
Liz.
Liz.
Her entire conversation is gonna be like, "Oh yeah, well, I like playing music."
All right, Liz. First question. Taco describes you as sounding like Aurora. How do you respond?
I don't know who that is.
No shot.
Am I supposed to know who that is? That's pretty much probably what she would say.
No shot. All I know from Aurora is Cure, and that's because it was popular on TikTok for a while. For the 3 months I used TikTok.
I'll have to send you a picture of Liz after this so you can put the voice to the face.
If she's got any links, send me those too. I'll put them in the description. I want to shout out as many people as I can.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. I don't know
Yeah.
if she has any violin. I did some photos for her, but I don't know if she has like a violin page.
Well, I
I'll ask
mean,
her.
even if she has like a website or something where she does like shows or whatever it is, I'll happily put that on there. Any kind of promotion I can give.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and I will say now that the moment has passed, so now it's extra awkward to say it. I first learned about you because of Ricky's Discord.
Hmm.
Shout out Ricky.
Hell
Um,
yeah, Ricky.
Ricky Chu, spelt wrong. Someone told her that years ago, and I forget who it was, and I'm so happy they did because it's so funny. Um,
Is it the two U's that throws
it's
you off?
it's the 2 years. But I met you through Ricky, and then you had posted one time that you were streaming your music, and I joined the stream, and that's when you introduced me to Amarillo by Morning,
Oh, okay.
which I played on a loop for like 3 weeks.
I mean, it's a great song.
It's an amazing song. But that was the day you introduced me to Amarillo by Morning. And I typed some kind of message in chat and you responded to it and I like got giddy. I was like, "Oh my god, a musician has recognized my message." And I was a hard fan for like so long.
Oh man,
And
that's
then
awesome.
then I DM'd you to say, "Can I use your music in my stream?" And you said yes. And I was like, "Oh my god," he said yes. and I was giddy again for like a while. So it's one of those things where it's nice to be like friendly with someone, as weird as it is, who I did like idolize for a while. Cause I don't, it's weird, but it's just something about like your vibe and your music. I was like, this is this is a man I enjoy as a person.
Well, good. I'm glad that you. I'm glad that I'm approachable. I don't know. I've never felt like not approachable as a person.
No, it's a very comfortable vibe. But it was. I mean, because I mean, you make music and then put it on a platform and then people listen to it. Like that's insane. To me, that's not a thing I could ever do. Half because um, I don't take music serious enough to even want to try.
Fair.
Because I mostly just kind of play for myself.
Yeah,
And
there's nothing wrong with that.
and B, because like I'm not good at coming up with songs, but I'm good at like playing what I've heard. And I would never want to just release cover songs because to me that's just not a thing that I would want to do.
Okay.
So
Uh, well, I'll tell you this. As far as like writing something and putting it out there, you don't have to put it out there. But if you come up with something, every single musician you know that you listen to on a regular basis, every single one of them started out with the exact same like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I does this work? Does this there's the constant imposter syndrome. There is a constant doubt in what you're creating, and I think that's just the arts in general. And the difference between someone who does it like full time and puts the stuff out there and the people who aspire to try to do that, the only difference is the people that put it out have learned how to quiet that voice a little bit more. Because I think we all have that voice. So
I
if you write something, it doesn't have to be great or life changing or incredible by like the world, take the world by storm. It just has to be you. Just put you out there. And that's all it needs to be. You don't need to show it to anyone. You don't need to have anyone listen to it or critique it or whatever. Just create. It's our best gift that we have for ourselves, if anything.
this is going in my diary. I'm not lying when I say that giddiness just came back, man. I'm a fan first, god damn it.
Just create for you, man. Like end of the day, you get your guitar, you play one or two chords and you write a line. You created something. Created something that wasn't there before, and now it is. And that's all it has to be. It's a beautiful thing that you created something that was you.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, that's solid advice. I mean, for anyone, just do it. Do it for you and then see what happens.
Yeah,
Just
I've been hosting open mics for 15 years, and I've had everything from someone who it's their very first time on stage to seasoned veterans to celebrities. And I treat every single person exactly the same, and I tell them the exact same thing. Like just do you. It's okay to be nervous about it. It's just that feeling's gonna pass, but you got that moment right now. Just enjoy that moment.
and I will say too, like that feeling of imposter syndrome. I feel like everyone has that in what they do, and
Absolutely.
not to toot my own horn here, but after that 24-hour live stream that physically destroyed me for a week and a half, uh, I broke 150 followers on Twitch.
Hell yeah.
I'm sitting stable at 155 followers, and it's one of those things where I launch OBS for my stream Tuesday, Thursday, 9 p.m. to midnight, and
Nice plug.
I think it's very natural. And I see that 150 and I go, man, that ain't right. 150 people like my sorry ass. Like that's so weird. And I think imposter syndrome, no matter who you are, no matter how successful you are, is one of those things that never ever goes away unless you're a raging douchebag who thinks like
Yeah.
it's deserved that you're there. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
I feel like it never goes away, and it's one of those things where, and maybe it's my problem with music, and it's why I find it so hard to write. It's just the idea of like you got to recognize that if you weren't meant to have it, you wouldn't have it. Like
Yeah.
people don't become your fans out of spite. You know, no one ever enjoys what you do because it's popular to hate it. You know, I mean, maybe some people, that's not really not the common goal. And so
Yeah.
if someone likes what you do, it's because they like what you do. It's not that you didn't trick them somehow.
Yeah.
You know?
Or if you did, tell me how.
Right. If you did, let me know because I got a bridge I want to sell you. Uh,
Yeah.
so but I appreciate that, and who knows, maybe in a year or so I'll come back to it and go, man, I wrote a thing, and
You wrote a thing. In a year from now, you wrote a thing, and it's going to be the intro song to your podcast year 2.
I don't know. I'm really enjoying lo-fi music number 2 that I got for
Fair enough.
free
Fair
from
enough.
CapCut.
There you go. Fair enough.
But no, I appreciate that. We are pushing an hour and a half, which is kind of where I wanted the soft limit to be, just for now, just so you know there could be more to say, and I can drag you back in for a part 2. Frequent collaborator.
If the people want it.
They're gonna want it because I told them they do. Um,
All right, man.
if I may,
Mm-hmm.
I wish to end this on a harsh cliche.
Okay.
If there's advice you could give to someone who maybe has a moderate interest in music, but has only ever thought of making, or trying to perform, or trying to write like once or twice in the shower, or someone who's like, I want to be a musician one of these days and I want my living to be from performing, what would you tell them?
Okay. First thing that I would suggest you do is find yourself a local open mic. Go. If you have to have some liquid courage to get on stage, don't have too much. Get that first show, get that first song out of you. Get it out. Because a friend of mine told me once, it's not a song till you play it live. And I hold on to that bit of advice very dearly. And another friend, both of these friends, unfortunately, are no longer with us. Another friend of mine, I asked him once, his name was Jay Wolf. And I asked Jay, we were younger musicians. I asked him, like, what do you want to do with music, man? Like, what's your thing? Like, what do you want to be famous? Do you want to tour? What do you want to do? And Jay's response is something I will never forget. He told me, dude, I'm just a kid with my guitar. I just want to play. So my advice to anyone who's wanting to play music is just play. Because it's the reason it's called playing is it's playing. You're just it's there for free to play, have fun, get lost in it, have it center you, whatever it needs to be, whatever it's going to be for you. Just play. The best gift that we can give ourselves is to play, no matter what that is or what it looks like. So start there. Just play.
Somebody smarter than me, right now I forget who it is, um, once said, your first time doing anything is going to be the worst you've ever done, so might as well get it out of the way. Because
Exactly.
there's nowhere else to go but up.
Exactly.
And I guess the cliche, the secondary cliche, and I guess the note I would like to end it on, um, the question everyone gets asked in every interview, probably in their entire life: is there something you wish you would have known or you could tell a younger self?
um, enjoy it. Enjoy it when it's not a job, and continue to enjoy it when it is, because I still do, and I didn't really enjoy it as much as I should have when I was younger. It was very much hustle and very much trying to survive at the time, and I didn't live in the moment as much as I wanted to. Uh, I don't necessarily regret that because it kind of got me, that grind got me to the position I'm in now. But if I could go back and just have myself slow down a little bit, other than not drinking, that's what I would tell myself.
Enjoy the moment, live in the moment, never forget who you are. Put down the bottle for the love of Christ. Look, man, I'm just telling you now.
I'm just, if I could talk to my younger self, I'd be like, hey, listen, stop drinking. I know you say you have it under control. You don't.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Well, I appreciate, I mean, all of this, man.
Absolutely, man.
I would say I'm honored the fact that you agreed to doing this at all. Um, it's a pleasure to meet a hero. So I really do
Stop
appreciate
it.
it. I grovel at your feet, and my life will never be the same. I will think of this on the day I die.
No, man, I enjoyed the conversation a lot.
I mean, it was nice. I really enjoyed this. I genuinely enjoyed this.
And I feel like I got to know you a little bit better too. So like that always means a lot to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. I do apologize. I'll send you a check.
Thank you.
Oh, no, of course. As soon as
I
I have
need it this month.
oh God, don't remind me of any of that.
I'm going on vacation in a week, so
Oh Lord, so I want to thank you all for being for being here. I want to thank you again, man. If
our Venmos are
you can find my Ko-fi, my link tree, link in the podcast description. But please, absolutely check out Raul's music. Check out his Twitch, all of it. Just check out all of it. Do it. Check it out. It costs you nothing, and you're going to like it. I promise you. You will not regret the choice. Thank you for being here, for talking to me. I would love to have you back on as a guest another time. Should the schedules allow.
absolutely.
And I thank everyone for listening. So thank you for sitting here with me. Be on the lookout for the next episode. I promise you there'll be more to come. I have a whole notebook full of ideas I want to talk about. So, any final messages, any promotions you want to do before we call it a day?
Go check out Three's Twitch too.
Okay, so we're gonna cut that out. Anything else you want to promote?
Be sure you're following Three on.
I'm gonna end this podcast. Show over. Season 2 starts in October. But yeah, thank you all. I thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.